Greetings petrolheads, welcome back to Automation, the car company tycoon game. So this week we're gonna have another 5 head-to-heads, and the first one will be between the Ravager Requiem by Musty Man Guy and the Komodo by Cool K. So let's take a look at the Ravager Requiem, and it's blue. it's bright blue. Anyway, we have a corrosion-resistant steel monocoque and partial aluminum panels. Nothing too out of the ordinary there. 5-speed manual gearbox, the wishbones are around. It's kind of heavy compared to most other cars we've seen so far, but that's okay, because we have plenty of grunt, you know, 250 horsepower from a 2.8 liter turbocharged V6. Let's take a look at this engine. So it's a dual overhead cam 4-valve per cylinder engine, cast iron block and head, so it's a little bit heavy. Cast crank, cast conrods and hyper-eutectic cast pistons. Not the strongest materials here. We have 52 cam profile, we have no VVT. We have a medium watt to air intercooler, which is totally sufficient for this size turbo. We have single point electronic fuel injection. We have a red line of 6500 RPM and one straight through and one reverse flow muffler. Making 250 horsepower and 257 pound-feet of torque. Now, this engine isn't the strongest we've seen so far, I think, in a couple of ways. First of all, the torque curve. Like, unfortunately, with the way that turbocharged V6s work in automation, I don't think that they were the best choice for this challenge. Simply because with the smaller displacements V6, it's just much better to go for an inline 6 instead, because you have all 6 cylinders providing the airflow for just one turbo rather than 2 turbos. And as a result, with the V6, the turbo just kicks in much later, even if you don't go for a massive turbo, because you can see here this is not a particularly large turbo. And oh, you can also see it like this. Like, look at that. 2 of these tiny little things, they take so long to spool up here. That's unfortunately the way that it works in automation. That is why it would probably have been better to go for an inline 6 rather than a V6. And I know that this body can fit in a straight 6 turbo, so that's not a problem that you would have with this body. The other thing is the reliability. Pistons and conrods are both restricting reliability. That's why I said it's kind of an interesting material choice here with the cast conrods and hyper-eutectic cast pistons. Now, these pistons are great if you want low emissions. You can see that in the tooltip. But as far as max RPM and max torque goes, they're, you know, just average. Forged pistons would have been quite a lot better, because this challenge isn't really about who makes the least emissions, and even then this engine doesn't. So that's kind of a letdown. But apart from that, I think that overall these stats, like the comfort, the prestige, the safety, they're really good. It's also 30,300, that's somewhere in the middle. It's not super expensive, it's not super cheap, it's well priced, I guess. Let's take a look at some more components here. Viscous limited slip diff, sports tires, 215s all around on 16-inch alloy rims. We have vented discs front and rear. Nice brake balance, although again that's the way that works best in automation. Probably not the way it works best in real life, but hey, we're playing automation here, not real life. Semi-clad under tray, plenty of cooling airflow. We have 4 seats, luxury interior and entertainment. We have power steering and ABS, and advanced safety. Suspension wise, we have progressive springs with gas monotube dampers. Again, probably it would have been worth the extra expense for some better components here, like some adaptive dampers. Yeah, they would have added some more sportiness and comfort. But gas monotube is what he chose. So drivability and sportiness are a little on the low side compared to most other cars we've seen. Comfort and prestige though are pretty high. So this is probably more of a premium, more of a luxury car than a GT car, in my opinion. Because even then the drivability thanks to the, or due to this torque curve, is not very good. And yeah, I think that the engine is definitely the biggest letdown on this car. Yes, it makes 250 horsepower, but the way it gets there and the torque curve is just not ideal. But apart from the engine, like, everything else is pretty solid about this car, I would say. Then again, the engine is a crucial component for any car, so let's see what the other car is. It's gonna be the Komodo by Cool K. Oh look, another Mustang. This time it's a convertible. I let that count, by the way, because it doesn't really matter. Like, it doesn't really change anything about the GT concept. Like, there's plenty of GT convertibles out there, so why not? So here we have a galvanized steel monocoque with aluminum panels. We have a 5-speed manual, double wishbones all around. Actually, very similar weight to the what was the name of the Ravager Requiem, because this is a convertible. And 238 horsepower from a 5.5 liter flat plane V8. And yeah, so this is the second largest engine we've seen so far, and it's also in the Mustang body, which is why you would think that maybe this has some similarities with the Mersen, but we'll get to that in a second. First of all, this is a flat plane V8, and it's made entirely from cast iron, interestingly enough. It's got a cast crank, which works fine here. It has I-beam steel Conrad, it has forged pistons. It has 20 cam profile, so lots of low-end torque. It's naturally aspirated, it's got multi-point EFI. It's all the way leaned out on the fuel mixture, unlike the Ravager Requiem, which had like 13.7 to 1. It got short cast headers, it's got a regular freeway cat, not a high flow freeway cat. Probably to reduce the max power a little bit more, because with a 5.5 liter V8 it's kind of difficult to make only 238 horsepower, but of course it can be done. But what this engine does to the car is that while yes, it does make more drivability than the Mersen, but the Mersen had like 40 sportiness. But we are not comparing this to the Mersen, we are comparing this to the Ravager Requiem. So compared to the Requiem, this has 16. Wait, how much drivability did the Ravager have? 44 or 42? Anyway, this thing has so much more drivability. It's got more sportiness, but the Ravager had 11 more comfort and it had more prestige. Let's see what other components this thing has. It's a 5-speed manual, geared limited slip diff, so it's gonna make for better traction, better drivability, better sportiness. Sports tires, 205s all around, 16-inch alloys. Again, vented discs front and rear, very similar setup to the Ravager. No under tray. Power steering, ABS, advanced safety, and progressive springs, gas monotube dampers. So actually on a lot of components they're really similar, but this car has better drivability, better sportiness, better economy. Oh, actually I didn't show you the running costs on the Ravager Requiem, which I'll get to in a second. 31,350. So this is $1,000 more expensive than the Ravager. So let's get back into. So this car running cost $3,072, and this car $3,515. So like $440 a year more. Is it worth it? Let's see. Oh yeah, quarter mile times 6.2 seconds 0 to 100. $14.75 quarter mile, and you guys were saying that the help and crossfire was too slow, and this thing only does it faster by 100th of a second, the quarter mile. And let's see what the Komodo does. We've already established that it's cheaper to run, more drivable and more sporty, but less comfortable and less prestigious. That's some tall gearing. Then again, this engine does have the torque. 1486. So I think this is the slowest car we've had so far. Then again, like, put that into the context, like, this thing is still quicker than an E30 M3, which was like a performance benchmark of this sort of era. So in that regard, it's not a slow car necessarily. It's just not as quick as some of the other entries that or most of the other entries that we've seen so far. So what do you prefer? More drivability and sportiness and cheaper running costs? Or on the other hand, better comfort and prestige and a slightly lower price tag? Let me know what you think, and well, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I will see you again with another episode tomorrow. Goodbye.